What is going on, everybody? Everybody's having a good day today. And now we are going to start reading The Chamber of Secrets, Chapter 13, The Very Secret Diary. And we only got like maybe 100 pages left. Hermione remained in the hospital wing for several weeks. There was a flurry of rumor about her disappearance when the rest of the school arrived back from their Christmas holidays, because, of course, everyone thought she had been attacked. So many students filed past the hospital wing trying to catch a whisper that Madame Pomfrey took out her curtains again and placed them around Hermione's bed, to spare her the shame of being seen with a furry face. Harry and Ron went to visit her every evening. When the new term started, they brought her each day's homework. If I'm spotted listless, I'll take a break from work, said Ron, tipping a stack of books under Hermione's bedside table one evening. Don't be silly, Ron. I've got to keep up, said Hermione briskly. Her spirits were greatly improved by the fact that all of the hair had gone from her face, and her eyes were turning slowly back to brown. I don't suppose you have any news? She added in a whisper so that Madame Pomfrey couldn't hear. Oh, nothing, said Harry gloomily. I was so sure it was Malfoy, said Ron, for about the 100th time. What's that? Asked Harry, pointing to something gold sticking out from under Hermione's pillow. Welcome in, he observed. Just to get up her, said Hermione hastily, trying to poke it out of sight. But Ron was too quick for her. He pulled it up, lifted it open, and read aloud. To Miss Hermione Granger, wishing you a speedy recovery from your concerned teacher, Professor Gilderoy Lockhart, Order Merlin third class, honorary member of the Dark Forest Diversity, a five-time winner of Witchweekly's Most Charming Smile Award. Ron looked up at Hermione, disgusted. You sleep just on your pillow. But Hermione was spared, answering by Madame Pomfrey, sweeping over with her evening dose of medicine. Is Lockhart the smarmiest bloke you've ever met? What? Ron said to Harry as he left the infirmary and started up the stairs toward Gryffindor Tower. Snape had given him so much homework. Harry thought he was likely to be in the sixth year before he finished it. Ron was just saying he wished he had asked Hermione how many rat tails you were supposed to add to a hair raising potion when an angry outburst from the floor above reached their ears. It's Filch, Harry muttered as they hurried up the stairs and paused out of sight with the same heart. Don't think someone else has been attacked, said Ron tensely. They stood still, their heads inclined toward Filch's voice, which sounded quite hysterical. Even more work for me, mopping all night like I haven't got enough to do. No, this is the final straw. I'm going to Dumbledore. His footsteps receded along the outside corridor, and they heard a distant door slam. They poked ahead around the corner. Filch had been manning his usual lookout post. They were once again on the spot where Mrs. Norris had been attacked. They saw at a glance what Filch had been shouting about. A great flood of water stretched out over half the corridor, and it looked as though it was still seeping from under the door of Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. Now that Filch had stopped shouting, they could hear Myrtle's wails echoing off the bathroom walls. Now what's the prefer? Let's go and see, said Harry. Damn scam likely calls. Damn scam like. Hmm. Uh, I'll just reread this whole paragraph. A great flood of water stretched over half the corridor, and it looked as though it was still seeping from under the door of Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. Now that Filch had stopped shouting, they could hear Myrtle's wails echoing off the bathroom walls. Now what's up with her? Just go and see, said Harry, and holding robes over their ankles, they stepped through the great wash of water to the door bearing its out of order sign. They ignored it as always and entered. Moaning Myrtle was crying, if possible, louder and harder than ever before. She seemed to be hiding down her usual toilet. It was dark in the bathroom, because the candles had been extinguished in a great rush of water that had left both walls and floor soaking wet. What's up, Myrtle? Who's that? Blubbed Myrtle miserably. Come to throw something else at me. Harry waited across the stall and said, why would I come throw something at you? Don't ask me, Myrtle shouted, emerging with a wave of yet more water, which splashed onto the already sopping floor. Here I am, minding my own business, and someone thinks it's funny to throw a book at me. But it can't hurt you if someone throws something at you, said Harry reasonably. I mean, it'll just go right through you, wouldn't it? He had said the wrong thing. Myrtle puffed up, herself up, and was shrieked, let's all throw books at Myrtle, because she can't feel it. 10 points of it go through her stomach, 50 points of it goes through her head. Well, what a lovely game. I don't think. Who threw it at you anyway? I don't know. I was just sitting in the bed, thinking about death, and it fell right through the top of my head, said Myrtle, glaring at them. It's over there. It got washed out. Harry and Ron looked under the sink where Myrtle was pointing. A small, thin book lay there. It had a shabby black cover and was as wet as everything else in the bathroom. Harry stepped forward to pick it up. But Ron suddenly flung out an arm to hold him back. What? Harry said. Are you crazy? Said Ron. It could be dangerous. Dangerous? Said Harry, laughing. Come off it. How could it be dangerous? You'd be surprised, said Ron, who was looking apprehensively at the book. Hmm. Some of the books must be confiscated, Dad's told me. There was one that burnt out your eyes. Burnt your eyes out? And everyone who read Sonnets of the Sorcerer, spoken limericks for the rest of their lives, and some old witch in Bath had a book that you can never stop reading. You just had to wander around with your book with your nose in it, trying to do everyone habit. And all right, I've got you the point, said Harry. The little book lay on the floor, nondescript and soggy. Well, we won't find out if we don't, unless we look at it, he said. He touched around and picked it up off the floor. Harry, you impulsive dumbass. Check. Sorry about that. Hang on. Harry saw it at once that it was a diary. And the faded year on the cover told him that it was 50 years old. He opened it eagerly. On the first page, you could just make out the name T. M. Riddle in smudged ink. Hang on, said Ron, who had approached cautiously and was looking over Harry's shoulder. I know that name. T. M. Riddle. got an award for special service to school 50 years ago. How on earth do you know that? Said Harry in amazement. Those filtermen across the ship about 50 times. Detention, said Ron resentfully. That one, that was the one that broke slaves all over. You work a slime off a name for an hour. You do remember it too. Harry peeled the wet pages apart. They were completely blank. There wasn't the faintest trace of writing on any of them. Not even Auntie Mabel's birthday or dentist, 3:30. He never, and said Harry, disappointed. I wonder why someone wanted to flush it away, said Ron, curiously. Harry turned to the black cover of the book and saw the printed name, Variety Store on Vauxhall Road, London. Okay. It must have been motherboard, said Harry thoughtfully. To have bought a diary from Vauxhall Road. Well, it's not much use to you, said Harry, said Ron. He dropped his voice. 50 points if you can get through Nicholas Nose. Harry, however, pocketed it. Hermione left the hospital wing, de-whiskered, tailless, and for free at the beginning of February. Damn, so that poor girl was in the hospital wing for over a month. They took Polyjuice potion around Christmas time. Damn. Yeah, it sucked for her. On her first evening back in the Gryffindor Tower, Harry showed her T.M. Riddle's diary and told her the story of how they found it. Oh, it may have hidden powers. Yeah, like the one that, opened the chamber secrets. Just a thought. Ah. Said Hermione enthusiastically, taking the diary and looking at it closely. The house, it's been hiding very well, said Ron. Maybe it's shy. Don't know, you don't chuck it, Harry. I wish I knew why someone did try to chuck it, said Harry. I wouldn't mind no one. I really got an award for special services to Hogwarts either. Could have been anything, said Ron. Maybe he got 30 OWOs? Or say the teacher from the giant squid? Maybe he murdered Myrtle? Kinda. What would you never want a favor? But Harry could tell from the arrested look on Hermione's face that she was thinking what he was saying. What? Said Ron, looking from one to the other. Well, well, the Chamber of Secrets was opened 50 years ago, wasn't it? He said. That's what Malfoy said. Yeah, said Ron, sorry. And this diary is 50 years old, said Hermione, tapping excitedly. So, oh, Ron, wake up, snapped Hermione. We know the person who opened the chamber last time was expelled 50 years ago. We know T.M. Riddle got an award for special services school 50 years ago. Well, what if Riddle got a special award for catching the eye of Slytherin? His diary probably will tell us everything. Where the chamber is and how to open it. And what sort of creature lives in it. The person who's behind the attacks this time wouldn't want that lying around, would they? That's a brilliant theory, Hermione, said Ron. So there's one tiny little flaw. There's nothing written in this diary. But Hermione was pulling her wand out of the bag. It might be invisible ink, she whispered. She tapped the diary 3 times and said, Apacarium. Nothing happened. Undaunted, Hermione shoved her hand back into her bag and pulled out what appeared to be a break-ready eraser. So reveal, I got it in Diagon Alley, she said. She worked hard on January 1st. Nothing happened. I'm telling you, there's nothing to find in there, said Ron. Riddle just got it in the diary for Christmas couldn't be bothered to put anything. Harry couldn't explain, even to himself, why he didn't just throw Riddle's diary away. Horcrux. The fact that was even though he knew he the diary was one, he kept absent-mindedly picking it up and turning the pages, as though it were a story he wanted to finish. And while Harry was sure he had never heard of the name T.M. Riddle before, it seemed to mean something to him, almost as though Riddle was a friend he had when he was very small, and had half forgotten. But this was absurd. He never had friends before at Hogwarts. Dudley had made sure of that. Nevertheless, Harry was determined to find out more about Riddle. So next day at break, he headed for the trophy room to examine Riddle's special work, accompanied by the interested Hermione and a thoroughly unconvinced Ron. He told her he'd seen enough of the trophy room to last him a lifetime. Riddle's burnished gold shield was tucked away in a corner cabinet. He didn't carry any details of why it had been given to him. Good thing, too, for being evil big on it, still be polishing it, said Ron. However, they did find Riddle's name on an old medal from Magic the Mirror, and on a list of old-headed boys. He sounds like Puffsy, said Ron, wrinkling his nose in disgust. Prefect, head boy, probably top of every class. Probably so. You say this like it's a bad thing, said Hermione in a slightly hurt voice. The sun had now begun to shine weakly on Hogwarts again. Inside the castle, the mood had grown more hopeful. Fantastic. There have been no more attacks since those on Justin Arrowhead and Smith, and Madame Pomfrey was pleased to report that the mandrakes were becoming moody and secretive, meaning that they were fast leaving childhood. The moment the acting clears up, they'll be ready for reporting again. Harry heard her telling. Well, I was fought 3 H's right in a row. Huh? Harry heard her telling Coach kindly one afternoon. And after that, it won't be long till we're getting them up and stewing them. You'll have Miss Norris back in no time. Perhaps the heir of Slytherin had lost his or her nerve, thought Harry. It must be getting riskier and riskier to open the Chamber of Secrets, with the school so alert and suspicious. Perhaps the monster, whatever it was even now settling itself to hibernate for another 50 years. Ernie Macmillan of Hufflepuff didn't take this cheerful view. He was so convinced that Harry was the guilty one, that he had given himself away at the Dorm Club. He loved the helping matters. He kept on popping up in the crowd quarters singing, "Oh, Potter, you Potter." Now it's a dance routine to match. Gilderoy Lockhart seemed to think he himself had made the attack stop. Harry overheard him tell Professor McGonagall so, while the Gryffindors were lining up for the transfiguration. "I don't think there'll be any more trouble, Minerva," he said, tapping his nose and nailing I think the chamber has been locked for good this time. The culprit must have known it was only a matter of time before I caught him. Well, it was sensible to stop now, before I came down hard on him. Now, what school needs now is a morale booster. Wash away the memories of last time. I won't say any more just now, but I think I know just the thing." He tapped his nose again and strode off. Lockhart's idea of a morale booster became clear at breakfast time on February 14th, aka Valentine's Day. Harry hadn't had much sleep because of a late running Quidditch practice the night before. Nick hurried down the great hall, slightly late. He thought for a moment that he walked through the wrong doors. The walls were all covered with large blue or pink flowers. Worse still, heart-shaped confetti was falling from the pale blue ceiling. Harry went over to the Gryffindor table, where Ron was sitting looking sickened, and Hermione seemed to have been overcome with giggles. "What's going on?" Harry asked him, sitting down and wiping confetti off his bacon. Ron pointed to the teacher's table, apparently too disgusted to speak. Lockhart, wearing lurid pink robes to match the decorations, was waving for silence. The teachers on either side of him were looking very stony faced. From where he sat, Harry could see a muscle growing in Professor McGonagall's cheek. Snape looked Snape looked as though someone had just fed him a large beaker of Skellige. Happy Valentine's Day! Arthur shouted. And may I thank the 46 people who have so far sent me cards. Yes, I've taken the liberty of arranging this little surprise for you all, and it doesn't end here. Walcott clapped his hands, and through the doors to the entrance hall marched a dozen surly-looking dwarfs. Not just any dwarfs, however. Lockhart had them all wearing golden wings and carrying harps. My friendly card-carrying cupids, beamed Lockhart. They will be roaming around the school today, delivering your valentines. And the fun doesn't stop here. I'm sure my colleagues will also want to enter into the spirit of occasion. Why not ask Professor Snape to show you how to whip up a love potion? Really? A love potion? Not that smart of an idea, Lockhart. Trust me, very good reason why. And while you don't have it, Professor Flitwick knows more about entrancing enchantments than any wizard I've ever met. A sly old dog. Professor Flitwick buried his face in his hands. Snape was looking as though the first person asking for a love potion would be forced to poison. Please, Hermione, tell me you want number 46? said Ron as they left the Great Hall for their first lesson. Hermione suddenly became very interested in searching for her bag for her schedule, and then answered. All day long, the dwarfs kept barging into their classes to deliver valentines, to the annoyance of the teachers. And right after that afternoon, as the Gryffindors were walking upstairs with charms, one of the dwarfs called to Harry. "Oi, you! Harry Potter!" shouted a particularly grim-looking dwarf, elbowing him not people out of the way to get to Harry. Caught all over the thought of him being handing in a valentine in front of a line of first years, which happened to include Jane Weasley. Harry tried to escape. The dwarf, however, cut his way through the crowd by kicking people's shin and reached him before he'd gone 2 paces. "I've got a musical message to deliver to Harry Potter in person," he said, twanging his harp in a threatening sort of way. "Not here," Harry hissed, trying to escape. "Stay still," grunted the dwarf, grabbing hold of Harry's bag and pulling him back. "Let go," Harry snarled, tugging. The loud ripping noise, his bag split in two. His books, wand, parchment, and quill spilled onto the floor, and his ink bottle smashed over everything. Harry scrambled around, trying to pick it up all before the dwarf started singing, causing something of a holdup in the corridor. "What's going on here?" came the cold, drawling voice of Draco Malfoy. Harry started scuffling, stuffing everything feverishly into his rich bag. desperate to get away from before Malfoy could hear his musical gramophone. "What's all the commotion?" said another familiar voice as Percy Weasley arrived. Losing his head, Harry tried to make a run for it, but the dwarf seized him around the knees and brought him crashing to the floor. "Oi!" he said, sitting on Harry's ankles. "Here is your singing Valentine. These eyes are as green as a fresh pickled toad. His head is as dark as a blackbird. I wish he was mine. He's really divine. The hero who conquered the Dark Lord." Harry would have given all the gold and Gringotts to evaporate on the spot, trying to laugh along with everyone else who got up, his feet numb from the weight of the dwarf, as Percy Weasley did his best to disperse the crowd. Some of whom were crying with mirth. "Off you go, off you go. The bell rang 5 minutes after class now," he said, shooting some of the students at the innocence away. "On to you, Malfoy." Harry, glancing over, saw Malfoy stoop up and snatch up something. Leering, he showed it to Captain Blow, and Harry already realized that he'd got Riddle's diary. "Give that back," Harry said quietly. "Wonder what Potter's written in it," said Malfoy, who obviously hadn't noticed the year on the cover. He thought he had Harry's own diary. A hush fell over the onlookers. Ginny was staring from the diary to Harry, looking terrified. "Hand it over, Malfoy," said Percy sternly. "When I thought I look," said Malfoy, waiting in the diary, tauntingly at Harry. Percy said, "As a school prefect," but Harry had lost his temper. He pulled out his wand and shouted, "Expelliarmus!" And just as Snape had disarmed Lockhart, so Malfoy found the diary shooting out of his hand and into the air. Ron, grinning broadly, caught it. "Had it," said Percy loudly. "No magic in the corridor. I'll have to report this, you know." But Harry didn't care. He was one up to mouth on Malfoy, and that was worth 5 points from Gryffindor any day. And Malfoy was looking furious. And as Ginny passed him to enter her classroom, he yelled spitefully after her, "I don't think Potter liked your Valentine much." Ginny covered her face with her hands and ran into class. Snarling, Ron pulled out his wand too, but Harry pulled him away. Ron didn't spend the whole time belting slugs. It wasn't until they had reached Professor Flitwick's class that Harry noticed something rather odd about Riddle's diary. All his other books were drenched in scarlet ink. The diary, however, was as clean as it had been before the inkball had smashed all over it. He tried to point this out to Ron, but Ron was having trouble with his own wand again. Large purple bubbles were blossoming out of the wind, and he wasn't much interested in anything else. Fair enough. Harry went to bed before anyone else in his dorm party that night. This was partly because he didn't think he could stand Fred and George singing, "His eyes are as green as a fresh pickled toad," one more time, and partly because he wanted to examine Riddle's diary again, and knew that Ron thought he was wasting his time. Harry sat on his four-poster and flicked through the blank pages, not one of which had a trace of scarlet ink on it. Then he pulled a new bottle of ink out of the bottle side of his bedside cabinet, dipped his quill into it, and dropped a blot onto the first page of the diary. The ink shone brightly on the paper for a second, and then, as though it was being sucked into the page, vanished. Excited, Harry loaded up his quill a second time and wrote, "My name is Harry Potter." The word shone momentarily on the page, and they too sank without trace. But then, at last, something happened. Oozing back out of the page in his very own ink came words Harry had never written. "Hello, Harry Potter. My name is Tom Mitchell. How did you come by my diary? These words, too, faded away, not before Harry had started scribbling back. Someone tried to flush it down the toilet. He waited eagerly for Riddle's reply. Lucky that I recorded my memories in some more lasting ways than he. But I always knew that there would be those who would not want this diary read. What do you mean? Harry swallowed, blowing the page in excitement. I mean, this diary holds memories of terrible things. Things that were covered up. Things that happened at school, all the schools with Captain Wizardry. And that's where I am now, Harry wrote quickly. I'm at Hogwarts and horrible stuff's been happening. Do you know anything about the Chamber of Secrets? His heart was hammering. Riddle's reply came quickly, his writing becoming untidy, as though he was hurrying to tell all that he knew. Of course I know about the Chamber of Secrets. In my day, they told us it was a legend, that it did not exist. But this was a lie. In my fifth year, the chamber was opened and the monster attacked several students, finally killing them. I caught the person who opened the chamber, and he was expelled. But the headmaster, Professor Dipbit, ashamed that such a thing had happened at Hogwarts, forbade me to tell the truth. The story was that given out that the girl had died in a freak accident. They gave me a nice, shiny engraved trophy for my trouble, and warned me to keep my mouth shut. But I knew it could happen again. The monster lived on, and the one who had the power to release it was not imprisoned. Harry nearly upset his ink bottle and hurried right back. It's happening again now. There have been three attacks, and no one seems to know who's behind them. Who was it last time? I can show you, if you like, came Riddle's reply. You don't have to take my word for it, and you should take you inside my memory for the night when I caught Harry hesitated. His quill it was suspended over the diary. Was it Riddle me? How could he be taken inside someone else's memory? He glanced nervously at the door to the dormitory, which was growing dark. When he looked at the diary, he saw fresh words forming. Let me show you. Harry pushed for a pause for a fraction of a second, and then wrote two letters. Okay. Pages of the diary began to blow as though something caught in a high wind, stopping halfway through the month of June. Mouth hanging open. June. Hmm. So towards the end of the year is when Harry was caught. So the pages of the diary began to blow, as though caught in a high wind, stopping halfway through the month of June. Mouth hanging open. Harry saw that the little square for June 13th seemed to have turned into a minuscule television screen. His hands trembling slightly. He raised the book to press his eye against the little window, and before he knew what was happening, he was tilting forward. The window was widening. He felt his body leave his bed, and he was pitched head first through the opening in the page into a world covered in shadow. He felt his feet hit round solid ground and stood, shaking, as a blurred shape around him suddenly came into focus. He knew immediately where he was. This circular room with the sleeping portraits was Dumbledore's office. But it wasn't Dumbledore who was sitting behind the desk. A wizened, frail-looking wizard, bald except for a few wisps of white hair, was reading a letter by candlelight. Harry had never seen this man before. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to butt in. But the wizard didn't look up. He continued to read, frowning slightly. Harry drew nearer to his desk and stammered, I'll just go, shall I? Still, the wizard ignored him. He didn't seem to even have heard him. Thinking that the wizard might be deaf, Harry raised his voice. Sorry I disturbed you. I'll go now, he half shouted. The wizard folded up his letter with a sigh, stood up, walked past Harry without glancing at him, and went to draw the curtains at his window. The sky outside the window was a ruby red. It seemed to be sunset. The wizard went back to the desk, sat down, and twiddled his thumbs, watching the door. Harry looked around the office. No Fox the Phoenix. No whirring silver contraptions. Huh. Okay, so those contraptions were specifically Dumbledore's. Good to know. This was Hogwarts as Riddle had known it, meaning that this unknown wizard was headmaster, not Dumbledore, and he, Harry, was little more than a phantom, completely invisible to the people 50 years ago. There was a knock on the office door. "Enter," said the old wizard in a feeble voice. A boy of about 16 entered, taking off his pointed hat. A silver prefix badge was glinting on his chest. He was much taller than Harry, but he too had jet black hair. "Ah, Riddle," said the headmaster. "You want to see me, Professor Dippet?" said Riddle. He looked nervous. "Sit down," said Dippet. "I've just been reading the letter you sent me." "Oh," said Riddle. He sat down, gripping his hands together very tightly. "My dear boy," said Dippet kindly, "I cannot possibly let you stay at school over the summer. Surely you want to go home for the holidays?" "No," said Riddle at once. "I'd much rather stay at Hogwarts and go back to that. You live in a Muggle orphanage during the holidays, I believe." Yeah. "Yes, sir," said Riddle, reddening slightly. "You are Muggle born?" "Half-blood, sir," said Riddle. "Muggle father, witch mother." "And are both your parents?" "My mother died just after I was born, sir. They told me that at the orphanage. She was just long enough to name me. Tom after my father, my father after my grandfather." David clutched his tongue sympathetically. "The thing is, Tom," he sighed, "special arrangements might have been made for you, but in the current circumstances—" "You mean all these attacks, sir?" said Will, and Harry's heart leapt, and he moved closer, scared of missing anything. "Precisely," said the headmaster. "My dear boy, you must see how foolish it would be of me to allow you to remain in the castle at this time, particularly in light of the recent tragedy, the death of that poor little girl. You would be safer by far at your orphanage. As a matter of fact, the Ministry of Magic is even now talking about closing the school. We are no nearer locating the source of all this unpleasantness." Riddle's eyes had widened. "Sir, if the person was found, the caught, it all stopped." "What do you mean?" said Dippet, with a squeak in his voice, sitting up in his chair. "Riddle, do you mean you know something about these attacks?" "No, sir," said Riddle quickly. But Harry was sure it was the same sort of "no" that he himself had given Dumbledore. Dippet sank back, looking faintly disappointed. "You may go, Tom." Riddle slid off his chair and slouched out of the room. Harry followed him. Down the moving spiral staircase they went, emerging next to the doorway of the darkening corridor. Riddle stopped. So did Harry, watching him. Harry could tell that Riddle was doing some serious thinking. He was biting his lip, his forehead furrowed. Then, as though he had suddenly reached a decision, he hurried off, Harry riding noiselessly behind him. They didn't see another person until they reached the entrance hall, when a tall loser with long, swooping auburn hair and a beard called to Riddle from the marble staircase. What are you doing? What, what are you doing? Wandering around this way, Tom. Harry gasped at the wizard, who was none other than 50 years younger Dumbledore. I had to see the headmaster, sir, said Riddle. Well, hurry up to bed, said Dumbledore, giving Riddle exactly the same kind of penetrating stare Harry knows so well. Best not to roam the corridors these days. Not since. He sighed heavily, bade Riddle good night, and strode off. Riddle watched him walk out of sight and then, moving quickly, headed straight down stone steps to the dungeons, with Harry in hot pursuit. It's getting hot out here, chap. But, to Harry's disappointment, Riddle led him not to a hidden passageway or secret tunnel, but to a dungeon in which Harry had potions of snake. The torches hadn't been lit, and when Riddle pushed open the door that almost had closed, Harry could only just see him standing stock still by the door, watching the passage outside. It felt to Harry that they were there for at least an hour. All he could see was the figure of Riddle at the door, staring through the cool crack, waiting like a statue. And just when had, just when Harry had stopped feeling expectant, tense, and started wishing he could return to the present, he heard something move beyond the door. Someone was creeping along the passage. He heard whoever it was pass the dungeon where he and Riddle were hidden. Riddle, quiet as a shadow, edged to the door and followed. Harry tiptoed behind him, forgetting that he couldn't be heard. For perhaps 5 minutes they followed the footsteps, until Riddle suddenly stopped, his head inclined in the direction of new voices. Harry heard a door creak open, and then someone speaking in a hoarse whisper. Come on, gotta get you out of here. Come on, now. In the box. Come on, gotta get you out of here. Come on now. In the box. There's something familiar about that voice. Riddle suddenly jumped around the corner. Harry stepped out behind him. You could see the dark outline of a huge boy who was crouching in front of an open door, a very large box next to it. Evening, Rubius, said Riddle sharply. The boy slammed the door shut and stood up. What are you doing down there, Tom? And yeah, I know he's like a second year in the book, but like that doesn't sound the same. My voice, whenever. Riddle stepped closer. It's all over, he said. We won't have to turn you in, Rubius. They're talking about closing Hogwarts if their tax don't stop. What are you? I don't think you meant it to kill anyone. But monsters don't make good pets. I suppose you just let it out for exercise, huh? It never killed no one, said the large boy, backing against the closed door. From behind him, Harry could hear funny rustling and clicking. Come on, Rubius, said Riddle, moving yet closer. The dead girl's parents will be here tomorrow. The least Hogwarts can do is make sure the thing that killed their daughter is slaughtered. It wasn't him, roared the boy, his voice echoing in the dark passage. He wouldn't. Never. Stand aside, said Riddle, drawing out his wand. The spell lit the corridor with sudden flaming light. The door behind the large door flew open with such force and knocked him into the wall opposite, and out of it came something that made Harry let out a long, piercing, unheard scream unheard by anyone. A vast, very low-slung, hairy body with tackled black legs, a gleam of many eyes, and a pair of dozen razor-sharp pincers. Riddle raised his iron wand again, but he was too late. The thing battled him over as it skidded away, tearing up the corridor and out of sight. Riddle scrambled to his feet, looking after it. He raised his wand. The huge boy leapt onto him, seized his wand, threw him back down, yelling, "No!" The scene whirled. The darkness became complete. Harry felt himself falling, and, with a crash, he landed spread eagled on his four-poster in the Gryffindor dormitory, Riddle's diary lying open on his stomach. Before he had time to regain his breath, the dormitory door opened around him. "There you are," he said. And Harry sat up. He was sweating and shaking. "What's up?" said Ron, looking at him with concern. "It was Hagrid, Ron. Hagrid opened the Chamber of Secrets 50 years ago." All right, chat. So that concludes chapter 13. The next chapter will be chapter 14. And I'm going to read it right now. I just need to take a little intermission break. I need to go potty, refill on some water, do a little puff, puff, puff. Give me about 5 moments or so, and I'll be back. Welcome to the stream. No, just joining. I'll be right back. I got to use that. The phone line. Side out here.
No, I'm sure. You don't smoke that. You don't smoke. No. She has an sprayer. There's just literally nothing in it, bro. Like literally nothing. Where's that bundle of fucking joy? He is out in Daytona. Oh, that's right. You got a job, right? Mm-hmm. What? Security. Again, like I said, I'm live though. So I don't want to be putting his business out there. He's doing security. He's fine. Yeah. You know. Oh, you got the old spot though? Yeah. Well, you know, just like the city and shit, you know. Can't be revealing shit, man. Ballet. Not aware of what he works though. Just out there in Daytona. Yep. Chamber of Secrets. Yep. 2. Yep. Almost done with it. Chapter 14. Yeah. There we go. All right. We are back on our intermission chat. Chapter 14. Cornelius Butch. Harry, Ron, and Hermione had always known that Hagrid had an unfortunate liking for large or monstrous creatures. During the first year at Hogwarts, he had tried to raise a dragon in his little wooden house. And it wouldn't be a long time. It would be a long time before he forgot the giant, 3-headed dog he'd christened Fluffy. Fluffy. And if, as a boy, Hagrid had heard that a monster was hidden somewhere in the castle, Harry was sure he'd have gone to any lengths for a glimpse of it. He probably thought it was a shame that the monster had been cooped up so long. In fact, it deserved its chance to stretch its many legs. Harry could just imagine a 13-year-old Hagrid trying to put a leash and collar on it, but he was equally certain that Hagrid would never have meant to kill anybody. Harry half wished he hadn't found out how to work with his diary. Again and again, Ron and Hermione made him recount what he'd seen until he heartily sickly, until he was heartily sick of telling them, and sick of the long circular conversations that followed. Rickle might have gotten the wrong person, said Hermione. Maybe it was some other monster that was attacking people. How many monsters do you know that you think the place can hold? Ron asked dully. We always knew Hagrid had been expelled, said Harry miserably. And the attacks must have stopped because after Hagrid was kicked out, otherwise Riddle wouldn't have gotten his award. Ron tried a different tack. Riddle does sound like a pussy. Who asked him to scoot on Hagrid anyways? But the monster killed someone, Ron. And Riddle was going to be some kind of big muggle. And Riddle was going to go back to some muggle orphanage if he goes back to Hogwarts today. I don't blame him if he wants to stay here. You met Hagrid in Knockturn Alley, didn't you, Harry? He was buying a flesh-eating sluggerpunk, said Harry quickly. The three of them fell silent. After a long pause, Hermione voiced the naughtiest question in a hesitant voice. Do you think we could go and ask Hagrid about the doll? That'd be a cheerful visit, said Ron. Hello, Hagrid. Tell us, have you been setting anything mad and Harry loose in the castle lately? In the end, they decided they would not say anything to Hagrid,
unless there was another attack. And as more and more days went by with no whisper from the disembodied voice, they became hopeful that they would never need to talk to him about why he had been expelled. It was now nearly 4 months since Justin nearly had a snook, had him petrified. Nearly everybody seemed to think that the attacker, whoever it was, had retired for good. Peeves had finally gotten bored of his "Oh, I'll tell you, Buster" song. Ernie McMillan asked Harry quite politely to pass a plug of leaping tool stoves in from biology one day, and in March, several of the mandrakes threw a loud and rapacious party in Greenhouse 3. This made Professor Sprout very happy. The moment they start trying to move into each other's thoughts, we'll know they're fully mature, she told Harry. Then we'll be about able to revive us poor people in the hospital wing. The second years were given something new to think about during the Easter holidays. The time had come to choose the subjects for third year, a matter that Hermione always took very seriously. It could affect the whole future, she told Harry and Ron as they pored over the list of the new subjects, marking them with checks. I just want to say check, keep on receiving phone calls, and this is why I turned my shit on to airplane mode. I don't keep my phone calls in right. Glad I wasn't wearing my AirPods. Just saying. Welcome in, whoever just joined. Damn it. Actually, chat, I'm going to end it here, and I'll read chapter 14 next time. Peace.